Boom, guys, welcome to this video. Welcome to this video. Today we're going to talk about how you can buy your first real estate deal in the US, guys. If you don't know me, my name is Mamadou Diallo. I've built a whole portfolio here in the US, and I started with no credit, no money, and no experience whatsoever with a strategy called real estate wholesaling. That's when you find ugly homes, you put them under contract, and you can sell that contract for cash, which you can do here in the US. And after my first 3 deals, guys, I went straight into building my rental portfolio. In only 2 years, I was able to build a portfolio that is worth more than $6 million. And guess what? I downscaled, then move on to fix and flips, and now my team and I will do what we call real estate new development. This is basically where you take from the ground up, right? You find the land, build on it, and then you sell or you build to rent. That's what I do now, and I'm in local in Georgia. But today specifically, guys, I want to talk to you guys about how you can get your first deal. One of the #1 questions I get from immigrants, Africans, wherever they're from, is how can I get my first home or my first real estate deal? What is the right way to go about it? Well, the first thing always comes down to your goals. What is your goal? Is your goal just to buy a home to live in? Or is your goal to buy a home to live in for now, but later you're thinking about becoming a real estate investor? Right? A real estate investor, meaning a hands-on real estate investor who find the deals, put them together, then execute on it, whether that be you're going to renovate it and then sell it for a profit, whether that be you're going to keep it as buy and hold, do Airbnbs like I do midterm rentals. There's so many. I can talk about dozens of different strategies you can do in this thing called buy and hold. That's when you buy the properties and you hold it, right? Or are you the kind of person who, I don't really want to buy my home where I want to live right now. I want to go straight into investing. Then the second question is, guys, you got to know thyself, right? That's the first thing. Sit down with a piece of paper and know exactly what you're trying to do. Because if you tell me what you're trying to accomplish and you tell me what you're looking for, then it's easy for me to tell you how to find it. Anybody, anywhere, right? The second thing is now your resources. What do you have? When you're getting started, like for example, for me, when I started, one thing I didn't have was money. I didn't have money, and so I created time. I took time. I had time. I left my 9 to 5 because my 9 to 5 was taking all my time, right? Taking all my time, but not giving me enough money to do what I want. So I decided, okay, this 9 to 5 is taking the most precious thing I have on this earth, which is time. Because I'm working from Monday to Saturday. Sometimes they ask me to make an extra shift on Sundays. It was a government job, well-paid job with insurance and everything. I didn't give a damn about it. I was miserable. I knew I was tired of people telling me when to take my weekends, when to see my family, when to travel. I was just sick and tired of it. So I didn't really care. I wanted time. So I was always trying to do something on the side, and real estate is what clicked for me. So when I started, I didn't have money. So I decided, okay, if I'm not getting enough money through this job, let me quit. Let me at least get my time back. How did I do that? I discovered the strategy called real estate wholesaling here in the US. And I discovered that here in the US, you can find motivated sellers, whatever the motivation is. It could be financial. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they haven't paid the debt on their home for a while. So we call this a seller that is going through a foreclosure, right? Or maybe it's a probate situation. Whatever the case may be, you can find these people off market, right? The data in the US is public, accessible to everybody by law. If a bank is about to foreclose on you, they have to publish that data online. Literally, they will even publish it in the local newspapers to give you a warning. Hey, you didn't pay us for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. We're going to try to take the home unless you get caught up. Well, you can call these sellers off market, find them before the bank foreclose on them, negotiate with them at a discount, and you take that contract, you sell just the rights to that contract. That's called real estate wholesaling. That's what I started with. How did I do that? Why did I start with that? Because I didn't have the money. So I wanted to build some cash before I start taking down properties. Does that make sense, guys? So boom, that's how I started. Now, I wasn't looking for my dream home. I wasn't trying to buy my dream home. But most people, when they first get started, especially if you've been through the US, if you were unfortunate enough to go to school in the US and go through their school system, they've probably brainwashed you to thinking that a single family home for you and your family to live in is an investment. It is not an investment. It is a scam. It is a lie. And it is something where the bank who's financing you to go to school, they will give you a debt quicker to go to school than they will give you a debt to start a business. They've been able to convince you to put yourself in debt. Go to school. Obviously, they're also the ones who finance the schools. Go to school and learn A lot of garbage you'll never use in your life. You're definitely not learning this in school. That's guaranteed, right? So a single family where you're gonna live in, what people say is, I want to buy my home because they think it's an investment. Okay, when you buy a home, what's happening? Like, oh, well, right now I'm paying rent, and if I just stop paying the rent, I can use that money and just instead pay a mortgage, monthly payment on a mortgage in a home that I own instead of throwing rent out of the window. What they're not calculating, because now I have the experience in real estate, is all the expenses beside the monthly mortgage that comes with owning a home. Number one, if you own a home, who's responsible for toilet leaks? Who's responsible if the roof caves? Who's responsible for if the property catches fire and the insurance don't want to pay? You are responsible. Not only that, do you guys know in the US, the banks, they've made a study, and statistically they know that most people will not keep their property that they buy to live in more than 7 years. Why more than 7 years? Because they know that after 7 years or very close to that 7 years, guess what? Most people need to either downsize or upsize. Downsize because maybe the family moved out, the kids moved out, or they got a little bit older, so they cannot do the stairs anymore, whatever. So they had a 4-bedroom, now they need a 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom, or maybe they had a two-floor single family, right, where they have to go to the stairs to get to the bedrooms. Now they want a ranch house where there is no stairs at all. And then the people that want to upside is what? Now they have more kids, they need more rooms, whatever. So they've calculated that within the 7 years or the first 10 years, most families would have already moved out, paid off that loan that they took 7 or 10 years ago, pay it off just to borrow a new loan and go buy a new property. And here is another thing, another fact. Most people, the majority of people that buy homes only buy in low income neighborhoods. Most people that earn less than $100,000, because it's very few that earn over $100,000 a year in their salary. Most people that earn under $100,000 will only buy homes like at the $500,000 range or less. Why is that significant? Because in those areas, guys, properties don't appreciate as fast as in neighborhoods where you buy single family homes from $600,000 and up. I would even argue $650,000 and up in terms of the value of the property. Most people cannot afford that. They don't have the credentials, they don't have the credit, and we're going to talk about credit here in a minute. They don't have the income, right? And they're not that savvy, so they cannot go live in A neighborhoods. Most people live in B neighborhoods, C neighborhoods, D neighborhoods. D neighborhoods where the crime is rampant. C neighborhoods, sometimes you might get shot, sometimes not. B neighborhood is like decent, right? Middle class, decent type of stuff. Not upper middle class, but middle class. So why is appreciation so important, guys? Because when you buy a home, how do you build wealth? Is by building equity. So if I buy a home today, a single family home where I am going to live in, right? As we said, the expenses is not just the monthly mortgage. You have the yearly property taxes, right? If anything needs to be repaired, you're the one who pays it. If you're renting, your landlord is the one dealing with these expenses in the back end. You just don't know about it. I own rentals. I know what I deal with. My tenant have no idea. Some of these properties where I have to evict tenants, they have no idea. They just think I'm just sitting around. I have all this money growing out of trees. Even if they don't pay for 3 months, it's okay. I'm this filthy. That's how they think about landlords, especially in blue states, right? When I say blue states, I'm talking about California, Maryland, New York. It's very hard to get a tenant out. But the reality is, if you took a loan, which 99.9% of people in the US, whether they buy a property to live in or an investment property, they go through either a big institutional bank or a private bank. Really doesn't matter unless your uncle is Bill Gates. And even then, most likely he will give you a loan. People borrow money to buy properties. You think the bank cares if your toilet leaks, if the roof caves? You think your bank care if your tenant don't pay? Me as a landlord, for example, they don't. They want their payments on a monthly basis. And if you don't pay on time, 3 months, 6 months, they will foreclose on that house and take it. You see where I'm going with it? So now, how do you build wealth? It's not just by paying the mortgage every single month. It's by your property appreciating in value. Your property appreciating in value. So if you bought this home $300,000 today, assuming that you bought it at the right location, you are hoping that within the next 3 to 5 years, I would argue 5 to 10 to 15 years, this property is now worth $450,000. So you bought it at 300, so now you have what we call technically, just to keep it simple, $150,000 in equity. What is equity, guys? Equity is the difference between what you owe to a bank and what you can sell the property for and walk away with. So in this case, let's say just a hypothetical scenario, you list this home later down the line, 5, 7, 10 years. You list it and you find out that the value of this home, if you fix it up, you can list it for 450, but you borrowed $300,000 to buy the home. Well, guess what? You have technically $150,000, but obviously there is fees involved. In the US, it costs about 8% to sell a home. So after the fees, you walk away with the difference. That's what we call equity. That's how you build wealth. So what you're hoping is the property's appreciated value so you can build wealth. Here's the problem. In most neighborhoods that the big pool of people can afford to buy, properties don't appreciate as fast as they think. Not only that, things happen, things like the COVID-19, people lose jobs. That's how we get all these properties in pre-foreclosure. It's just somebody, first-time home buyer, we call it, went in a neighborhood, in a decent neighborhood, bought a home below, $500,000 because they could get what we call an FHA loan. And we're going to talk about exactly what that is. And guess what? The property didn't appreciate enough for them to build enough equity, at least not at a fast pace enough. And now they lost their job. And they're about to lose their home because they cannot afford to keep up with the payments. You know how many calls I get from people that bought a home to live in, and before they bought that home to live in, only them and their family, guess what? They only had one job, and now they have 4 jobs just to keep up with the mortgage. So guys, a house only you live in, guess what? It's not an investment. It's just expenses. So don't start out by buying your dream home, because all you're doing is hemorrhaging, basically taking money out of your pocket on a monthly basis, along with all of the expenses, and you pay for it. This is called expenses. This is not an investment. It's only an investment down the line, assuming that you know what you're doing and you bought this property at the right location. Now, what is the right way then to do it? Let's say hypothetically you're trying to buy your first home to live in, okay? And then you also want to turn it into a real estate investment at the same time, and you're thinking about becoming a hands-on real estate investor later. Well, don't start with your dream home. You should start with what we call a multifamily. It's, just a 2-story duplex, for example, right? Why a 2-story duplex? Because now, guys, you can live in one unit and you can rent the other unit, right? You can live in one, rent one. Right? So if you're living in one here, you're renting one. This one right here is a tenant paying you every single month. And guess what? Because you're planning on buying, guys, you're going to walk into the bank. They're going to ask you the same exact things, requirements that they'll ask you to buy one single family where you're not making any money and just hemorrhaging expenses. They're going to ask you your pay stubs. They're going to ask you your credit scores. Here in the US, the financial system work on credit. Credit is more important than cash in the US. You are not about to change their financial institutions. Just play the game. Credit. They want to see a track history to know you were somebody who got their shit together, that you've already borrowed money to either buy a car, or you had a credit card and you've been paying on time. And so your credit score, anything from, I would say, 750 and up is fantastic. At 650 is decent. Anything below that is like bad credit. So you need credit. If you have credit, you can go and borrow something called, for example, FHA. FHA is First-Time Home Association. This typically is the best loan for first-time home buyers, the person that is buying their home for the first time, and you're earning less than $100,000. They'll typically only ask you about 3% down. So let's say you're buying a property at $300,000. They're asking you 3% down, and if you push for a government assistance, guess what? You can even buy the home at 0% down. If you're in the military, you can borrow a loan that we call a VA loan. Even better, that VA loan is even better than this loan. But they will ask you your pay stub, so you're going to need a 9 to 5, right? And then they will ask you, I say a 9 to 5, not a business, okay? You are more fundable when it comes to your primary if you have a 9 to 5. They're going to ask you your credit, so your credit have to be decent. So you're either going to start a credit profile, work on your credit, which is easy to do, right? Or guess what? And you know what, guys? I'm going to put the number of the person we use to work on your credit down below so that you have it in the comments if you need it, if you live here in the US. And then you're going to need your pay stubs, all right? If you have that, you can take this kind of loan. It's the same loan that you can use to either buy a single family. It's your choice at the end of the day. When you walk into the bank, you're telling them what you're trying to buy. All they're trying to see is based on income and credit, do you qualify? They don't care what you buy. It's up to you to know what you want. The bank is not going to tell you what you should buy. They're not here to advise you for your better future. They're here to turn you into a slave with mortgages. That's what their job is to loan money and make money on that interest. The word mortgage, literally, if you translate it in French, it means mort. Mort means death, and then gage. So it's a death pact, basically, right? So if you take it the wrong way, you are definitely going into a death trap. So guys, now, why is it important to take the same exact loan you would have used to buy a single family with just expenses for the next 10 to 15 years, instead buy a two-story that now you have both your primary and an investment while you at it? So you get your cake and get to eat it too. So guess what the bank is going to do? Do you know it's actually easier to borrow money to buy a duplex than to buy a single family? It might be a little bit harder to find, but it's possible to find duplexes on the market and borrow the same kind of loan. And the difference here is because you're renting one unit and the bank knows that, and you live in one unit, the income that your tenant is going to bring into your pockets every single month, the bank is going to translate that. So let's say hypothetically, just for the sake of example, your monthly payment for the mortgage on this thing here is $2,400, just for the sake of the example. But you find out that here on this unit, one unit, you can rent one unit for $1,200, which, guys, by the way, with inflation right now and the way everything is expensive right now, easily in most markets, you can rent one unit, depending how many bedrooms, for $1,200. So now imagine, if this was a single family, you have an expense of $2,400 every single month, just you. That's not including upkeep, right? Keeping up with the grass cuts and everything else that come along with the house. Here, because you have a two-floor and somebody, a tenant, is waking up every single day, going to their job, working for you just to pay at least over 50% of your monthly mortgage per month. Guess how much you're saving literally every single month? $1,200. This is assuming you cannot rent it for more. In most market right now, you can rent this for more. $1,200, that's not coming out of your pocket, that's coming out of your tenant's pocket. And you know what else the bank will do? They will actually, before you even buy the home, this is how they're going to underwrite the property. This is how they're going to look at it. They're going to say, okay, this $1,200, they're going to time it by 12. And then they're going to take the result, right? So 1,200 by 12, and then they're going to take 75% of that amount. So let's do the math. So 1,200 times 12. So that's 14,400. They're going to divide that. They're going to time that by 75%. So they're going to take 10,800. Let's assume you're making $45,000 a year. I'm just making up a number in your 9-to-5. They're going to take that 10,800 that you're making here on a yearly basis, and they're going to add that on your salary to qualify you for the loan. You get me? Because they know this one is going to bring income, they're going to qualify you at a higher amount, also using your rent income as your income. They're going to add it on top of your income. When you're buying this single family, why is it harder to qualify for this than a two-story? Is because this one, the bank knows, is not going to bring you any income. It's just expenses. So it's going to be way harder. They're going to be way more strict in terms of lending you and way more conservative, because now you have to earn 3 to 4 times more than what your monthly mortgage is on this here in order for them to do what? Lend you the money. So they're going to look at how many credit cards you have, how many cars you're paying loan on. Some people, even the TV is on the loan. So they're going to look at all your debt and see, okay, after all your debt, can you still afford groceries if you also buy a home? When here, they're looking at it as, okay, living in one floor, bringing income. So now, guys, you have the best of both worlds. Now you're not just taking money out of your pocket every single month and paying expenses. I think I got some cash here, boom, right? You're not just taking this cash and just throwing it out of the window if you have a single family, right? What you're doing is now you have a tenant who's working for you every single day, right? And they're paying you, and yes, and guess what else he does? Because in the future you're looking to be a real estate investor, because you have a tenant, this is teaching you property management. Now you're managing a tenant, you're learning how to put a lease in place, you're learning how to vet a tenant, you're also learning on a monthly basis how do you allocate funds on the side, because you don't just take this $1,200 and go and buy groceries with it. It's not what you're doing, right? What you're doing is you're taking some funds also and putting some funds on the side. So because you're saving $1,200, you can take at least 5 to 600 on a monthly basis. Put it on the sides for what we call vacancy. That's in case your tenant vacate and now you have to have that property empty for 2 months before you find another tenant. You can put money on the side every single month, a percentage of this money for repairs. Let's say AC unit goes off, toilet leaks, you don't want to come out of pocket, so you're allocating money for that. Anyway, I've done a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel, guys. Make sure you check it out to show you exactly how to do that. But now you're learning how do you do property management and how do you allocate funds on a investment property. And then if you want, after living here for 12 months, guess what you do? If you want now, you can vacate this second unit and bring another tenant in here. So now you're out, you go out if you want, go buy your dream home. And now you have 2 tenants working every single month just to pay off your mortgage and pay you. And this thing is just working for you now. Now you have 2 tenants working for you. Now you go buy your dream home. So if you're a first-time home buyer, don't start by buying your dream home and trap yourself like millions of people in the US into debt, just paying debt, just hemorrhaging, and the property is slow and appreciated. In case you lose a job, now the bank is gonna have to foreclose on you, and somebody like me gonna have to call you and save you out of foreclosure. Guys, we do this like dozens per month that we help homeowners on. Right? So don't make this mistake, especially if your plan is to buy a dream home. Even if it's not, even if your plan is not to become a full-time real estate investor, but at least start first with the properties that is bringing you income, passive income, and then buy a dream home. So it's your passive income properties that are paying for your dream home. That's how you should think anyway. How can my investments pay for my living, pay for my luxury? That's how you should operate. And so the best way to start, guys, is figuring out, again, as I said, first is your goal. What are you trying to accomplish? Second is your resources. Now, how to find a deal? Easy. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can hire a real estate agent. Make sure you vet them, guys, because these people, 99.9% of real estate agents have no idea what they're doing. They don't invest in real estate. Most of them don't even own their primary residence. So make sure when you're talking to them, because you're paying them, you're bringing them business, make sure you're dealing with an actual real estate agent that have helped somebody before buy an investment property. They know what an investment property should look like. They know what cash flow should look like. They know their market. They know what the rents are. Vet them. Make sure you take them through an interview. It's the same thing if you hire an attorney. Don't just assume because they have a license, they know what they're doing. Most people with licenses in the US are actual dummies, literally. And I mean that genuinely. Attorneys, real estate agents, they have no idea what they're doing. You gotta vet them. You gotta vet them, especially if you're the real estate investor. So you have to do a lot of research. Figure out how do you allocate funds on the side when you buy a real estate property. How do you put leases in place? How do you understand your market? This is all, just few researches online for absolutely free. You don't have to go to college for this. You don't have to go borrow a student loan for this. All right, guys. Then financing. Then you get to financing. After you do all this, then you get to financing. This is where you're gonna have to present your credit, your pay stubs, and all of that. Guys, I also have a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel showing you exactly how you can also buy homes the same way I built my whole portfolio using none of your own money, no pay stubs, no credit. So at that point, you don't even need a job. That's how my team and I, we buy shitload of real estate, is because we've learned the art of negotiating off market deals. And so we know what is called owner finance. This is where you turn the seller into the bank, literally. So you find the homeowners. Here in the US is easy because all the data is public. You negotiate with them directly and you turn them into the bank. If the owner becomes your bank and they're willing to finance you the home, guess what? You don't need a pay stubs, you don't need credit, you don't need credentials. All you need here is to be able to be a great negotiator, establish credibility in terms of making, having them understand that you are the right buyer for the property and you're the right person to solve the problem. Subject to same thing. This is when you find homeowners. For example, they could have a great piece of property, like a bunch of my Airbnbs, where the seller was in distress financially, meaning they lost a job. Now they cannot keep up with the mortgage payments. They're behind on the bills, but they have a brand new property, fully furnished. And I was able to convince them to leave that debt in place that they've already borrowed years ago on their name. We transfer title. I own the property, and the loan stays on their name. I'm just making the monthly payments. That's called subject to, one of the most powerful real estate, strategies you can use. But obviously, you have to know how to negotiate it. That's number one. Number two, you have to know how to structure your paperwork the right way when it comes to this strategy right here. And if you ever need help with this, guys, reach out to me. I have a fantastic transaction coordinator that will help you with that. And then obviously you have things like list options. So some of the best neighborhoods you want to be in, you can literally call the homeowners that have had their property on the market for a minute, they haven't been able to sell it, and convince them to rent you with the option to buy later. Most of them, because they know you want to live in, guess what? They're more than happy to work out a deal with you here because they know if you're going to live in, you're going to take care of their property. It's way harder to convince them sometimes, even though it's possible we do it all the time, right? Even 0% sometimes. They don't want no money up front. But it's way harder to convince them if you're going to put a tenant in, because typically they're like, okay, Mamadou, if I finance you the home, you put a tenant in, what happens if the tenant damages the property and now I have to get it back because you stopped paying or something happened to you, you know, maybe you got abducted by whatever is coming next, right? 2024, we have what? We have cars driving themselves, so you don't know what happens then. So they're a little bit more afraid. But if you're going to live in, they know you're going to take care of it. So they're way more open to this, what we call creative finance strategies. The other way is straightforward, is just cash. Cash. If you know how to find great deals off market, negotiate them at a discount, well, guess what? You can always go to private institutions that don't necessarily look at your credit. They look at more so the income of the property, and they give you loans that we call, like, for example, DSCR loans. These are loans where it doesn't really reflect on your credit, even though they still do ask your credit to make sure you have a shit together. But when they give you the loan, it doesn't reflect on your credit, and they underwrite the property based on the property income. So they're loaning you based on the asset. So we call this asset-based loans. So guys, before you buy a property, make sure, number one, if you're a first-time home buyer, if this is your first time buying a home, make sure you don't just go in right out the gate and buy your dream home. Unless you're the doctor, you're the dentist, you're the lawyer, right? You're earning over $150,000 a year, and you can afford to go into the best, absolute best neighborhoods, buy properties that you know full well are going to appreciate within only a year or two. You're going to build equity in it, and then later you can either take that equity, cash it out, invest it in something, or you can just sell the property because you're moving. There's a lot of engineers like that move a lot. They buy homes in some of the best neighborhoods you can buy homes at, right next to the best hospitals, next to the airports, whatever. Properties over 650 in terms of value, and those properties appreciate a lot, and they know for a fact that they're not going to live in that neighborhood for more than 2 years. But after 2 years, now the property is worth like 750, 800. Then they sell it for a profit, take that cash, move on, do it again, and do it again, and do it again, right? So, and also you got to ask yourself, what bucket do you fall in? Are you the kind of person who, I hate my job, so I would love to go fully into real estate to quit my job. So there's a different strategy, but which is, we just talked about the duplex. If it's the first time, that is the absolute best way. Guys, anyway, stay tuned. The next video I'm gonna make is gonna be about creative finance. How do you buy homes without needing a job, without needing credit, without needing credentials? How to structure these deals? What is the legalities that is involved? If you actually check out my channel, I did a whole podcast with an attorney who has been doing this kind of real estate, who has been closing this kind of real estate transactions for over, I would say, over 30 years, 35 years, easy. And he's explaining exactly not only how old creative finance is, but how you can do it the right way. You should check it out. It's my podcast with attorney Michael Gross. I'm actually going to bring him back again. But guys, make sure you keep watching on this channel. The next videos I'm going to make, we're going to talk about real estate, creative finance, how you can buy without using none of your own credit, no money, no credentials. We're going to talk about a lot of real estate development. You guys will see my team and I building properties from the ground up to sell and then building to rent. All right, that's the journey that we're in right now between Georgia and Texas. All right, guys, and make sure obviously you like the video. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know if there is anything else here, any detail you want me to expand on. I'll make sure to make a video on that. Leave a comment and let me know, what your plans are to buy your first home, and if this makes sense for you guys. By the way, even if you need a lender referral, I have a great friend of mine who lends in all 50 states. He will lend you for your first time home, and I have somebody else that can help you with the credit. So I'll put all that information below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, make sure you stay bold and be bold. Boom, boom, boom.